Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing The Sopranos Season 2, and today we are on episode 2. We're well on our way in this journey, titled Do Not Resuscitate. That's a lot. There's a lot happening there. I did not realize until we got to the end. I was like, that's a good, that's very good. If you haven't watched this episode yet, this is your spoiler alert. Please watch the episode before listening to the rest of our conversation. Sarah, kick us off with a summary for episode 2.
While a labor standoff tests his business, Tony navigates shifting power as Junior's health and legal woes mount. Janice complicates Livia's care, and unease within the crew simmers.
Oh, the ending of that. Yeah, I'm feeling uneasy too.
Oh, absolutely.
Things are not well.
No, I'm real nervous.
Yeah. What is your episode title for the second episode?
My title is Black and Blue.
Yeah. Yeah. People are getting beaten up by
they sure are.
The world. And it's not very good. My episode title is Strawberry Ice Cream.
Oh, what a nice way to ease us into this episode.
It's all Livia wants, and as we know, it's Livia's world and we're just living in it. So we are journeying kind of at the start of the journey, I would still say, of season 2 of the show, and honestly things are already heating up quite quickly. This feels almost like episode 3 or 4 with the amount of drama and momentum that is brewing. So tell me your thoughts about Sopranos season 2 episode 2.
Very quickly, can you hear the I don't know what is happening next door. There's like a leaf blower or like a weed eater or something very loud happening next door.
I don't hear anything, actually.
Excellent.
So your little mini mic is doing good work.
I just wanted to make sure because that is loud. Okay.
But we could also make this an episode where we reenact Rear Window if you would like.
Hey, I love that movie. Honestly, that is me all day, every day. Like, just always, like, if there's something like weird happening in the neighborhood, I'm peeking through these blinds. I'm going to know what's going on. Anyway, it's fine. So The Sopranos.
Yeah, The Sopranos.
Yeah. So this episode is just jam-packed with things happening. Oh my gosh, at every single level too. All of these characters that we talked about last episode about, Salvatore coming back and the mistrust there. We learn a lot more about what's going on with him. We get confirmation of our suspicions about Salvatore. We finally see Uncle Junior and everything that we have going on with him and this clash between him and Tony that's going on. And then, of course, we get our girl Livia, who is she is on one in this episode, and I am here for it. She's so evil, and I just love her so much. She's so funny. I had a great time with Livia in this episode. And then, of course, Janice, who is just a fun agent of chaos coming in here, getting under everybody's skin. And her relationship with Livia is also very, very fascinating to kind of dive into. So I just feel like, and then, of course, like the labor strike too, and everything that's going on with that was introduced in this episode. So this is one of those episodes where you're just going from start to finish. Yeah. And I feel like each new scene, you're like, oh, wait, there's something else really important that I have to pay attention to here. Like there's not a lot of places to just like sit back and relax and just catch your breath for a moment. This is one of those episodes where it just feels like everything is happening and you just have to be along for the ride. And I really appreciate that, because you feel the tension and you feel the weight that Tony is carrying, but it's still such an entertaining episode that I wanted to keep watching even after that. So the ability of this show to have such a breakneck episode like this, but me not to feel fatigued and checked out, I think is a real testament to the writing and the depth of these characters, that I want to keep going, even though there's just so much going on in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this episode's really interesting because it's a perfect episode too. Like the momentum, the velocity of the plot is quickening on every front, and we very much in line with how The Sopranos writes its stories. We have parallel 6 or 7 story arcs happening all at the same time that are colliding with each other, but it feels like every story arc is on the rise in this episode. Like everything is heating up, tensions are soaring, and there is no catharsis, there is no breaking of the tension in this episode. It's just all tension on every front, every parallel story arc, and all of those story arcs feel like they're going to collide with each other at any given moment, but they haven't quite yet. They're just running in parallel. They're like lines that almost touch and then they don't yet. And I think episode 3, we're set up for a really explosive episode, but I don't know. The Sopranos loves to like drag the tension along with us, and we will just follow it wherever it goes, truly. So I think this is a really smart and a really effective episode 2. And I think I'm particularly impressed by this episode because a lot of time these types of episodes where we are almost in movement, moving from one point in each story arc to the next, can often feel like filler. And there's been a few episodes, I think in season 1, honestly, where there's just episodes where you're like, I can see that we're making progress, but like, oh, not my favorite, because I loved the other ones where things are exploding. And sometimes this type of episode where it needs to get us from point A to point B can feel just like filler, and we're just, okay, we're doing the thing to get to the next thing. But I think this one especially was so exciting and so thrilling. So instead of it feeling like filler, I actually feel like this is the goal. This is the point, is for us to sit in this ride, almost like on the roller coaster where you're nearing the top, your stomach hasn't dropped yet, but that anticipation is part of the fun. And this is a great kind of transition episode as we move forward in the plot. So particularly impressed, because a lot of shows often do these types of episodes kind of poorly, even though they are necessary.
Yeah, this is setting up some really juicy things. And we knew that in the first episode too, as we're kind of being reacquainted with this crew and this world and like seeing who all of the players are. And I feel like this episode really solidifies that we are in for quite a ride this season. And just seeing where all of the characters are, all of the tension just kind of simmering beneath the surface, these little explosions that we get kind of throughout, but nothing really like big or cataclysmic yet. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm excited to see when those things happen. Like, what is the fallout going to be? Because it's going to be big and it's going to be dramatic and it's going to be entertaining because it's The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. One of the other things that I think this episode does a really good job of is it's introducing us to characters that we've known about, but we're getting to spend more time with. And The Sopranos is also allowing characters that have had kind of their arcs be left and kind of out of focus for this season. So I'm glad we're not revisiting and getting a whole new arc with Artie, but in fact, we're getting more time with Bobby, Baccalieri, and we're getting to understand more of Junior's crew instead of this other character. And so, like, it's fascinating that there's these staple characters that are obviously very much a part of the fabric of the core cast, but it's those peripheral personalities that I think is fascinating to see where the Sopranos is shifting its focus on a little bit more. I'm sure maybe Artie will come back or whatnot, but letting those be a core part of season 1 and choosing to focus on new colorful personalities that have new things to bring to the table and new relationships to reveal about our main characters is important. So we haven't seen a ton of Hesh yet, but instead we're getting more time with Reverend Herman James. And how will the show bring these almost characters in and out of frame for us will be fascinating to see. So I loved learning more about Bobby. He seems like such an interesting character. Knows how to keep his head down when he needs to, but also definitely feels some type of way about it every step of the way. And gosh, we love a character like that, to see when they will be loyal and obedient and when they're like, got a little bit of an attitude and need to like spit after the person has left the building. I love it. I love to see characters like that.
Which I do appreciate that he didn't like hold all of those feelings in, but he found a way to like release those big feelings that he was having in that moment while still appearing to be respectful to Tony. I loved that whole scene. It was so good. But the other thing that I appreciate about this episode and this show just in general, kind of along that same vein, is understanding like when a character is needed and when they're not. So in this episode, I don't know, with 2/3 of the way through was thinking, we haven't seen Christopher yet in this episode.
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, he's in the scene.
Yeah.
And so I love moments like that where the show leads you to ask a question and then they answer it. And so it's this really interesting sense of timing that The Sopranos, I feel like, has. And it knows what we as the audience need and when we need it and gives it to us in just the right dose and at the right time. And that continues to build our trust in the show so that we're willing to keep watching. So if we don't see a character for a little while, we know that there's a reason and they're going to show up again. The Sopranos hasn't forgotten about Christopher or Artie or, Hesh or any of these other characters. They're just not needed in these scenes. But when it is their time to shine, they're going to be there. And so I love those little moments of those timing bits that The Sopranos is just so good at nailing.
Yeah. I had that moment with the opening with Junior. I think I was saying in my looking ahead section in the previous episode, like, man, what's happening with Junior? Like, I'm sure we're going to get more of him. He was such a pivotal part of the first season. His star is very much not rising at this point, but like, how will the show write his ending? And lo and behold, I was so pleased, felt so satisfied, grinning ear to ear, seeing that we started the episode with the opening with Junior, because I've been wondering about him. How's he doing in prison? Has he defected yet or not? And we get the whole opening to revisit and see where his headspace is at. What's his relationship with Tony at? And it's kind of the focus for this entire episode. So yeah, to your point around The Sopranos knows human nature and knows the audience well enough to know what questions we're asking specifically and how it's going to answer it or surprise us with some surprising answers in a different way too. And it's just so satisfying to feel that. It feels like there's this constant dance we have with the writers and creators of the show and us.
Yeah, I loved that moment with Junior and Tony visiting him in prison. And I love that detail of it took him 3 weeks to add Tony to like the visitors list. And I think that that's also so smart. We don't really know like time frame wise kind of like how much time has elapsed since like the first season. We don't know how like time is a little,
Squishy.
Sorry. Yeah, it's squishy. Sorry, now the dogs are barking. We're just having a chaotic day in this house. Yeah, time is a little squishy. It's a little nebulous in The Sopranos. But I love that we don't see Junior really in the first episode. We just get that little tiny clip of him in the montage early on. And so it's almost like we are also experiencing that 3-week wait as well. Along with Tony, who's trying to talk to his uncle and his uncle refuses to see him. So I loved that little detail to like almost pay off the reason why we didn't see Junior in the first episode.
And what we get in this episode is kind of a business takeover from Tony for all of Junior's like business units and jobs that he's running. He's negotiated like a pretty unfavorable like percentage breakdown with Bobby to go and bring back to Junior, which Junior's basically being like essentially voluntold like this is your gonna be your cut. And I think as Tony says, the rest is all for me. And then to Tony's surprise, Junior's out. He's out still out on these streets on house arrest, but seemingly can go out of the house for a lot of things that needs of food shopping, many doctor's visits because we have privacy at the doctor's office. And so I think
Absolutely.
that's going to be interesting to see this really complicated relationship between nephew and uncle. I think the ending of this episode really tugs on our heartstrings a little bit. Like they're obviously foes from a political business sense, but there's history there, and that history can't be erased so quickly. You know, that playing ball together, the mentor mentee relationship that they've always had, their family, and you feel the care and the consideration they have for each other, even though they have to be on two sides of the poles of this world, and they're out looking for themselves. But I don't know, it's so fun to see how complicated they both feel about each other and them fighting themselves, fighting their hearts to try and do the thing that is favorable for them. And yet, it's not easy for them to do that. And I love that The Sopranos can hold those two truths true at the same time and allow the characters to kind of wrestle with these things as they know what they need to say to get their share of the territory, their hold on power. And yet they're like, but it's my uncle. Like the way Tony rushes to the house immediately and he's frantic and he's worried. I'm like, man, the heart is still there between the two of them. Very complicated, but it's not all just conniving, backstabbing that they're doing.
And I think that that helps make this so interesting too. Because if it was just two business partners, that's a completely different type of relationship. But they're business partners and their family. And that is so complicated, which makes it so much fun for us to watch as the viewers. Because we saw this again and again in season one, where they talk about their affection for one another, and it goes both ways. And then we also just see them kind of stabbing each other in the back or, doing shady business things. And so I love how complicated that is. And I loved that ending bit, especially Tony carrying his uncle to the car. Like that is, you see how vulnerable Junior is in that moment. And Tony is still there to take care of him, not to take advantage of him, but like as out of sense of duty, out of sense of family, to actually care for his uncle in this incredibly weak state. And Junior won't let anybody else help him in this way. And so I think it's just, those additional revealing layers of just how complicated their relationship is.
Oh, it's so good. And you see the way that Tony too doesn't bat an eye. Like he's not considering any other options. You see him flip immediately into like, I need to help my family. This is part of my flock. I need to take care of this person. There's like all business out the window. He's just like, are you okay? We need to get you to the emergency room. Why are you being stubborn and not allowing any help? And you see him know exactly what to say to help get Junior to a place where he's comfortable getting out of the house and allowing Tony to help him. So that's also part of Tony's just like incredible people skills that we've seen a million times. But yeah, you can feel there's no other thought in Tony's mind. And we've seen him have many thoughts in other scenes, and he's scheming and he's conniving and whatnot. But this one, he's just jumping immediately into like go mode to help his uncle out. Yeah. It's so sweet.
It is so
Sopranos is so
sweet.
sweet while also being so savage.
Yes. And because, of course, that's contrasted with Tony's relationship with his mom, who is still dead to him, as he says over and over and over again in this episode. And I love that Junior is also like, hey, I need you to forgive your mom. And like, I don't know, that's just such a surprising choice, I think, for me, is that Junior would be advocating for Tony to reconcile with his mother, and that's such a point of emphasis for Junior that he brings it up multiple times throughout the episode, that like, Tony, you need to do this, you need to fix this relationship, this is really wearing on me. And so I'm very curious to see where that goes. Is that like a genuine heart thing, or is that some sort of like three-dimensional chess ploy? Like, what are we doing here with Tony and Livia and Junior? Because there was some shady stuff that went down in season 1, so we'll see what season 2 has in store for these three, I guess.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because honestly, the person that is the most savage on the show is not any of the men that are running the show in power and scheming against each other. It's Olivia, I would argue at this point. Like, she is the one that is so quick to manipulate everybody around her for her gain and seems to not bat an eye at it at all. And we see these men that should be the ones that are cold-hearted and savage and running their businesses try to do the right thing and have a heart, and there's a softness there that you can see is being like played by many other people. And so that's just really fun to see, is like, actually Livia's the one that's the most, has so much of that ambition, and like, oh, I don't know what is happening up there with her. But should we talk about Livia in this episode? She is putting in work. She's working hard to keep her position and playing everybody like a fiddle. It's so rough.
It's so rough, but I am so here for it. Like, anytime we go into the hospital and see Livia, I am here with my popcorn, because I don't know what she's going to do, but I know it's going to be manipulative and I know it's going to be entertaining. And I'm here for it. She is so chaotic. I always want more Livia. One of the most striking things to me that Livia does in this episode is that she calls Janice a snake in the grass. And that is fascinating, because Livia is the most manipulative character that we have seen in this show. She has been the snake in the grass thus far. And so then for her to identify this in her daughter, I think is very interesting. And like, how much of that is projection, how much of it is actually Livia. Livia can read people real well. So how much of that is actually, her trying to like warn others of the dangers of Janice? I don't know. Whatever the case, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen next and what Janice is going to do in this family. Because if Livia is ringing like warning bells about her, we know something's coming.
Yeah, and I think it's oddly satisfying to see, because Janice is scheming her way to get the money and the wealth and the positioning that she needs for her and her family and her partner. And you see Livia clock that immediately, like when Janice shows up with the flowers and the music of times ago. Olivia's like, nah, I'm seeing all of this and you cannot fool me. And I think it's always satisfying for us as the viewers to watch someone who's being manipulative be clocked by somebody else in their orbit. And the problem is nobody's clocking Livia. And so, except for honestly Carmela, I think Carmela is the one so far that has been able to see Livia's schemes the most clearly and has kind of been the most unafraid in certain moments to run at it straight on and head on. But everybody else, honestly, is getting like wrapped up in her orbit. And so I think it was neat to see the way that perhaps, Livia can spot that in Janice because she does the same things herself. So it's not surprising that like you can see the things that you do because you know what you do, and you see that, you're doing what I do. I know that that's familiar to me, but it's not going to fool me. And I think Janice is unaware about how much Livia is clocking as well. But it's not going to end well for Janice, I don't think.
Oh, definitely not. There's no way that Janice's storyline can end well. There's no way. Uh, but it's going to be fun to watch, I must say.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting to see. And I think other interesting things with Livia is we've seen her be unafraid to also play on Meadow's heartstrings. And AJ shows up, and lo and behold, she does the same thing too. And she extracts the information that she needs about the DNR from AJ. So I think it'll be interesting to see what does she do with that information now that she knows.
Yeah.
They're out for her money.
Yeah. And I don't remember exactly the scenario, but we've seen this before in season 1 too. There was an episode where AJ visited Livia and he spilled the beans on something. It was like an episode kind of in the middle of the season. And so now we're seeing that pattern happen again, where AJ is once again relaying some really, really pivotal information that he doesn't understand to his grandmother, who is going to take that information and run with it. Man, we need AJ to stop like learning about things basically, because anytime he learns something, somehow that information gets to his grandmother and then bad things happen. So we just need to cut AJ out of all information.
He is so interesting because he's observing everything around him. I'm really curious to see AJ's story arc because when they're discussing the DNR, there's so many cuts to AJ scooping his ice cream. He's not even. It's so cool. That actor, he's not doing full scoops. He's doing these little. I just was so distracted by that, and it's because he's distracted listening to this whole conversation. But really great, like pairing of like the physical activity reflecting kind of the emotional state of like I'm distracted, so I'm not even doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing correctly. Is he like baby scooping it into his bowl? But he's seeing and listening to everything in his orbit, and I think the adults forget about him a lot of times. So it's going to play a piece in how the story is going to unfold. He's very much like Greg in a lot of ways, always around, always listening, always absorbing. Information that he has is going to be highly useful when it falls into the right party's hands or the wrong party's hands. So I love characters like that are kind of underestimated and forgotten about. But joke's on you.
Mm-hmm. Nope, he's paying attention. Yeah. Yeah, he might not know what everything means or understand it all, but he is absorbing the information. And I think it's going to be really fun because, I mean, obviously there are 6 seasons of The Sopranos, and both Meadow and AJ are teenagers at this point. But by season 6, they're not going to be teenagers anymore. So what is that going to look like to follow both of them, through their adolescence and into adulthood as part of this family? I don't know. I feel like that's just setting up some really interesting places that the show could go. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. But for right now, season 2, AJ paying attention, which is an interesting callback to how Tony was when he was a kid in that flashback in season 1, because he was always watching too. He was always paying attention. And so now we've seen that with both of his children doing that as well. Their abilities of observation and just constantly absorbing what's going on around them. So we'll see what that does with AJ and how he runs with some of this information that he's hearing all around him.
Yeah, this better not be like a succession, because I think that like you see how much Tony reluctantly got sucked into this world, like he almost had to grow up too fast because he saw that around him. And similarly, we see the same thing happening for AJ and Meadow as well. It's like they just are too aware of how the world is working around them almost a little too early, and being exposed and trained up in that a little too early. So we will see. We will see indeed. One of the other interesting plot lines I think of this episode that was a really great reminder about how insidious the mafia and organized crime really is, lest we forget and get caught up in the like the have our heartstrings tugged by this family, is everything with the union and the protesters that are advocating for their rights, and yet they are being silenced by Tony and his crew, and having to be oppressed by others that are also trying to like figure out their own forms of survival. But I think that was just a kind of a gut punch to watch. And we've seen Tony and the other capos like murder people left and right, but this one specifically kind of hurt to watch. And I love that the show is like, hey, do not be fooled by the sheen and the sparkle of this family. We're going to make sure your morality is challenged every step of the way as well, lest you forget that they're doing really bad things, keeping a lot of people groups that are struggling very oppressed at their game. And don't forget about that.
And I love that it also helps to like root these people in a place too. You know, we've seen the neighborhood, we've seen the strip club, we've seen the meat market, we've seen these little places, these little businesses that they own and they have control over. But those aren't their only business ventures. So I really like that this season is expanding this world too, because we see in the first episode their, you know, stock stuff, whatever is going on with that with Christopher and them. And now we're seeing the unions and the building. And so the way that this family and this crime family isn't just operating in this one little arena. You know, they don't just own a couple of businesses, but they are deeply embedded into all sorts of stuff and are running a bunch of things that really deeply impact the city and the residents in this city. And it's not just in this one little area. And so I really love how this plot line kind of helps us to zoom out a little bit and understand that this family is involved in more than we think, and their impact is wider than we might think, and their violence is wider than we might think. And so helping, like you were saying, the morality piece of it, but I don't know, also understanding the context and what this community, what the city looks like, kind of being ruled by this family.
Yeah, it highlights just how much like we've seen so many sympathetic sides to a lot of these characters. They're looking out for their family, they're looking out for each other. There's these friendships that are really genuine and really earnest, but overall the things that they are representing is oppression, kind of like intimidation for other people groups that are struggling for their own selfish gain. And that's all that it's about, you know. Like I think even in the previous scenes that in the first episode we see with Christopher and his very corrupt new venture, and like taking money from people that they know are going to be out thousands and thousands of dollars, and scamming people that way. It's cognitive for us in that episode, but I think this episode makes it feel and look very real when the protesters are beaten by the crew, from Junior's crew and from Tony's crew. And you're like, oh my gosh, you feel the earnestness of the protesters trying to advocate for themselves with the systems in place that allow for this. And also seeing the corruption between Tony and Reverend Herman James, it's like all of that is ultimately futile, because these men in power that are willing to use violence to intimidate will win, because they're willing to stoop lower than everybody else and use those tactics. So it's just, as much as we grow attached to these characters and we're rooting for Tony and his family and all this kind of stuff, I really love that the show at the right time is like, don't lose sight. Do not lose sight. We're gonna stay grounded in who these people really are, and you will wrestle with it. We are going to ask you to wrestle with it. And I think that was really important to see. And like you mentioned, a reflection of this city and the society at the time, and the opportunities that are and aren't available to these people groups is really significant. So Loved that whole side plot line and the way this get we've woven into the show. We saw this in season 1 too. It's neat to see them still do it in season 1 2 comma TOO, and need to see them do it in season 2 TWO.
Excellent.
My brain for a second was like, season 1 2 what?
But the other piece that I love about this is the reveal about the Reverend being on the take and being in on it too, and how the show lets you believe for a good chunk of time that the Reverend is doing this out of the goodness of his heart, and this like moral function that he is providing and advocating for his people and advocating for his congregation. And then, man, that little gut punch at the end is so well timed, and it's so good. And I'm also curious to see where the show goes with this Reverend, and if he shows up again. In the first season we saw Father Paul, and how creepy and shady he was, with everything that he had going on. And so now I'm curious to see how we might explore a different type of corruption, and a different type of corruption in the church too, and having this quote unquote moral figure actually being in on the violence against his own people, I think would be an interesting thing if the show is going to continue to explore that. But man, that reveal came at just the right time though. Oh, what a gut punch.
Yeah, it's so rough. The show lets us believe the fantasy for a while, and then it pops the fantasy entirely, and you realize, oh, this is never going to work from the beginning with the protesters. Valiant effort. It sounded incredible, but ultimately doomed when you've got Tony and his crew like running everything behind the scenes, and it's all so insidious because it can't be seen, so you don't even know the protesters have no idea what they're up against. It's all hidden in the crevices of how the society is run, and that is very true and accurate to how the mafia runs. It's like it's behind the scenes, behind closed doors, but they're actually the ones pulling all the threads. Fascinating. Yeah, genius in a lot of ways, but really quite terrifying. How do you fight a foe that you cannot see? How do you fight for justice when you don't realize there's injustice? It's like an impossible task. So
yeah, absolutely.
all right, anything else before we give out some TVNS awards?
I mean, we do learn that Salvatore is a rat, and we meet his handler after his back procedure. Surprise!
Yeah, it's not going to be good. That's
No.
a ticking time bomb once Tony gets wind of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that the show like
Right.
confirms our suspicions so early, because then it is that ticking time bomb of, okay, we know this information now, but Tony doesn't. And when is he going to learn? And how bad is this going to be? So I'm very curious to see how long it takes for Tony to finally suss this out.
It's so rough. Especially because in the episode they talk about like the years of history together. Like, you've served your time with Tony's crew for 20 plus years. Like, how could he not trust you? And you're like, well, I think we know why, and how much it's still unknown to us, I think, too, how much where Tony's head's at with regards to Salvatore. There's clearly suspicions. It's clearly the story's been corroborated, but like how much suspicion and skepticism does Tony still have, and where does that come from? Why is he that way? Is he willing to trust? Is his inkling and tendency to trust his friends, or is it to always hold suspicion about anybody? We kind of don't know this side of him super well yet. We do know he gets very angry and holds on to when people are disloyal to him and his family, but how does he operate in this area? Like, I don't think we as the audience really know Tony's true feelings about it and how he is having to navigate the situation fully yet. So I think it's neat that we know a lot about Tony, but there's still parts of him that are a mystery to us. And we will hopefully find out based on how he handles the Salvatore situation. Is he still running checks left and right behind the scenes because he's not trusting? Or is he like, all right, my dude's back. His story corroborated. We checked once. Is that good enough for him or not? I don't know. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who is Tony. It's another dimension of like who is Tony and how is he wired and what made him this way. Trust him or
Yeah.
not? Does
Yeah.
he or does he not?
Well, and I think, in that conversation between Salvatore and his handler, he even talks about how like he hasn't talked with Tony. Like Salvatore is trying to lay low right now because he doesn't want to be found out because he understands what is going to happen to him once Tony finds out. And so it's going to be interesting to see once Salvatore starts making some moves and starts making waves, and what of those is going to tip Tony off to the fact that something is very, very wrong. Um, it's so smart for this to come in episode 2 because we have so many more episodes in this season, so many more opportunities for, oh man, just shady stuff to happen.
Yes, we're gearing up for some juice. That's for sure. All right. Let's give out some TVNS awards. So the first category is most family oriented. What's your choice for this one?
I want to give this to Livia for preferring the retirement community over living with Janice.
Yep.
I loved that moment.
Yeah. She's like, why would I live with you? What do you mean?
It was so nice.
Oh,
I got
man.
fresh towels.
Yeah. My choice I'm gonna give this award to Tony for carrying Junior out of the house princess
Aw.
style.
It's true. It's true. Junior gets to be a passenger princess with a broken hip.
Yeah, carried out. Like, and I love that Junior's uncomfortable with it too. He's like, you're gonna do it, you're gonna carry him like this. And Tony's like, what do you want to do? Ride on my back? What do you mean?
So good.
A pile of flesh and bones, my dude. You're gonna take what you can get. Most explosive moment. What is your choice for this one?
I want to give it to AJ for telling Livia about the DNR.
Yikes.
He
Is it
just
like
set off
DNA? Because like, how is that different?
right. He just set off a chain reaction and he has no idea what he did.
Not a clue. Not a clue. I'm giving this one to when the mafia crew show up to beat up the protesters.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard to watch. Hard to watch. It's rough.
Yeah.
Double meaning dialogue. What is your choice for this one?
Okay, I also got to give this to our girl Livia, who says to Janice about her name, "It's something else you threw away of me." And
Yo,
ooh,
she's so savage.
it was so good.
Cuts deep. Whew. I'm gonna give. I had many candidates for this one.
Oh, there's so many.
But I'm going to give it to Bobby, specifically for the way that he says to Tony in the meat shop, to the victor belongs the spoils, I guess. So salty. All
It's
salt.
so good.
He's so mad. And Tony knows it too, and he pops off. He's like, get the fuck out of here.
I want so much more of Bobby.
Me
He just
too.
brings
He's so fun.
much sass with him, and we need that sass in our lives. So, Bobby, you are welcome here.
And Tony's so rough with him too. He's so mean.
I don't know why. Like, why are you
I don't
picking
know,
on
but
Bobby?
there's some kind of beef. Yeah. All right, looking ahead, what are you excited to see as we really get into the thick of it with episode 3?
Oh man, just all the things. Yeah, Junior, what's going to happen with him now that he potentially has a broken hip? What is happening there? Anything with Livia, I am interested in. This episode had so much Livia. I would like a lot more of her, if I'm being honest. Setting up the confrontations with Janice, which is going to be interesting. And then, of course, is Tony going to forgive his mom? Is there going to be some sort of step toward reconciliation that Junior is pushing for? And also, why is Junior pushing for this? I think that that's a really interesting family dynamic that I hope this explores a lot more.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. Something doesn't smell right. So I think there's some scheming happening that we don't know yet. And so it's fun for us to see what things were in on it with the show as the audience and what things we still don't know quite yet. So um yeah, I'm excited to see more of Bobby. Honestly, I think he's such a fascinating character. He seems like a little bit of a loose cannon and willing to make some bold moves. So when will he have enough? Um, we saw Jimmy's ambition kind of like take him out essentially in the first season. So what will be Bobby's weak point? She's such an interesting new character that I love to see on screen. Brings so much personality and color. Um, what is Livia up to? I want to know more in her plot, but the show won't give it to us. I would like some more clues. And then I think how the show will write Junior's ending is going to be so interesting and fascinating to understand what this show cares about, what the show believes about who people ultimately are. So I know that Junior's arc will not be forever in the show. It is like for this period of time, for this phase of the show. But how does he end? Does he have a tragic ending? Does he have a redemptive ending? Does he defect or does he remain loyal and go out like heroically? I think that'll be fascinating to see. And everybody's a wild card on the show. And so I'm interested to see where Junior's arc will take him. So those are the things I'm most curious about. Always Carmela's in the back of my mind. What is stewing in her? She needs to break free from this life that she's living and be full on mafia wife and run the show somehow. But when will we get there? How will we get there? So Carmela's always on my mind. All right. Well, this is our review and discussion of Season 2, Episode 2. You can find it available on HBO Max. Thank you for listening to today's episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spend time with us today as we continue our journey through Sopranos Season 2. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your favorite Livia moment. We got many to choose from this episode. Connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tvnuspod, or email us at tvnuspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. We are also part of the Movie Archer podcast network, so go check out more at moviearcher.com. We'll be back soon with episode 3. We're gearing up for some juicy stuff. We're on the roller coaster ride, chugging along, and lots of drama to be had. So we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.